In this city, some people are born with real power. Some throw lightning from their bare hands, some freeze everything they touch, some move objects with a glance. And once, people like them were worshipped as the future of humanity. But times changed. Machines and robots turned out cheaper and more obedient, and the gifted were thrown to the curb. Yesterday's heroes became penniless outcasts, feared, despised, and kept under the gun. And one of them, an ordinary guy with electricity in his hands, will commit a desperate crime to save his dying mother. A crime that will change his life forever. And it all ends in a way that lingers for a long time. Meet Lincoln City, the city of tomorrow. And the bitter part is, it was built by the gifted. Their incredible power once drove all the progress, raised skyscrapers, built bridges, carried the whole economy on its back. But then the age of machines arrived. Robots did the same work cheaper, faster, and without complaints. And the gifted, who just yesterday were the city's pride, suddenly became useless. Spare people. Now every one of them lives under a microscope. They have to register their power like a weapon. Facial recognition cameras on every corner instantly pick a gifted person out of a crowd. And robot drones called Guardians patrol the sky, ready to take down anyone who shows their power. These Guardians are the nightmare of the gifted. The moment someone uses an ability in public, the drones swarm in, scan, restrain, and drag them off. The police barely bother. To them, any gifted person is a criminal who's easier to cuff than to question. In this world, the safest thing is to never use your gift and pretend you're nobody. There's almost no work for them. Their homes are crumbling slums on the edge of the city, and society looks at them as if the power in their blood is a criminal's brand. And up top, the government is already drafting a law to ban the gifted entirely. And these aren't empty words. The city loudly demands the gifted be outlawed for good. Politicians build careers on this fear. It's a vicious circle. The harder society crushes them, the more of them turn to crime out of hopelessness. And every new criminal just proves they should be feared and banned. And where there's a crowd of desperate, rightless outcasts, someone always shows up to profit from them. A terrifying synthetic drug called psych spreads through the streets of Lincoln City. And the most monstrous part is what it's made of. Psych is brewed from the spinal fluid of the gifted themselves. An underground syndicate hunts these people down, drains their power drop by drop, and turns it into doses. Here, a gifted person isn't a human. They're raw material for a drug lab. Imagine living in a city where you can be not just arrested, but kidnapped and turned into a drug, all because of what you were born with. The gifted vanish from the streets, and almost no one looks for them. To the city, they're just trash. Fear becomes the constant background of their lives. And in this hell lives our hero. His name is Connor Reed. He's 26, and electricity runs through his body. He can throw a powerful charge, absorb current, and control any machine. In another world, he'd be a superhero, but not in this one. Here, his power is a sentence. Because of his registered status, Connor can't get hired for a single normal job. So every morning he stands in the street with other poor souls and takes whatever filthy day labor he can for pennies, just to earn something. He lives honestly. He swallows the humiliation, stays away from trouble, never touches crime. But honesty doesn't feed you in this city, and Connor barely scrapes by, drifting from one odd job to the next. And he endures this grinding, hopeless life not for himself. Waiting at home is his mother, Mary, the one person in the whole world he loves. It's all for her. Mary is gifted too. Her element is cold and ice. She can freeze everything around her, but her gift became her curse. Mary's power has spiraled out of control, and now it's slowly killing her from the inside. The doctors give a terrible diagnosis, a fatal illness tied directly to her ability. And they say it plainly. Without an urgent, very expensive surgery, Mary won't survive. It's a matter of weeks. But there's no money and nowhere to get it. And this is Connor's worst nightmare. He watches the only person close to him fade day by day, and for all his power, he can't do a single thing. Lightning in his hands, and he can't save his own mother. It's exactly this desperation, a loving son ready to do anything to save his mother, that becomes the crack the darkness slips through. Because in that state, a person agrees to things he'd never consider in his right mind. And fate seems to hear him. One day at a job, Connor needs to fix some equipment, so he grabs a high-voltage electric fence with his bare hands. He calmly absorbs a charge that would kill any ordinary man on the spot and fixes everything in seconds. But the wrong person sees that trick. Watching Connor from a distance is Garrett, a local criminal who's no slouch himself. He can move things with his mind, and Garrett instantly understands. A guy with that kind of power is a gold mine for his dark business. Garrett comes to Connor with an offer that's almost impossible to refuse. Want fast, big money for your mother's treatment? Come with me. Forget the day labor for pennies. One job, and you'll have a sum you couldn't earn honestly in 10 years. Connor hesitates. He's no criminal. He spent his whole life trying to do right, but behind him is a dying mother and a wall of doors slammed in his face by the honest world. And really, he has no choice left. He agrees, and that step pulls him into the darkest part of the city. And here's the interesting part. An almost father-son bond forms between Connor and Garrett. Garrett is hard, but in his own way, he looks out for the rookie, sees his talent, and teaches him to survive. For Connor, who grew up without a father, this hardened criminal becomes something like a mentor. Garrett brings Connor to his boss, a cold, dangerous, calculating man named Marcus. And Marcus isn't just a thug, he's a special kind of gifted. He can read minds. Lying to him, hiding something, or betraying him is simply impossible. He sees right through you. But the ground is burning under Marcus too. He's drowning in debt to the top of the same syndicate that bruised Psych. Far more powerful, far more terrifying people are leaning on him, and they don't forgive missed payments. So Marcus is just as desperate as Connor, only he's ready for far darker things for money. And the deeper it goes, the clearer it gets. Marcus will stop at nothing. He keeps his people in fear, reading their thoughts, and at the first hint of betrayal, he turns his power on them. Under that polished surface hides a predator, and to him this whole band of outcasts is just disposable material to pay off his own debt. Connor joins a small crew of fellow gifted outcasts. There's Freddy, a mute giant with monstrous strength, a gentle soul in a brute's body, and Maddie, a fierce young woman who commands fire. Each of them was once cast out by society, and crime became their only way to survive. And here's what grips you about this crew. They're not comic book villains. They're broken, desperate people the world left no choice. They joke, they back each other up. For each of them, this team is the only family they have left. And Connor, who felt like an outsider his whole life, slowly grows attached to them. And always beside Marcus is his girlfriend, a woman named Nia. At first, she seems like just the pretty companion of a cruel boss, a quiet shadow behind him. But Nia has her own secret gift and her own pain. And in the finale, they'll flip the whole story on its head, and the work begins. Garrett takes Connor in hand and teaches him to use his power in a new way. Not just to zap, but to feel electricity finally. Kill alarms, crack electronic locks, jam cameras and drones. A lost kid from the street becomes a first-class breaker. The first serious job, a raid on a chemical plant. And the crew works like a single machine. Connor kills all the electronics and security. Freddy tears down any barrier. Maddie covers them with a wall of fire. The job pays off. And for the first time in his life, Connor holds real, big money. For the first time in ages, he has hope. He looks at that stack of cash and sees not riches, but a saved mother, a surgery, a chance. Yes, to get it, he had to cross a line and turn to robbery. But what does the law mean in a world that denied you the right to honestly earn a living for the person you love? And here's the thing, among these criminals, among the rejects the whole city wrote off, Connor for the first time in his life feels like he belongs. They accepted him as he is. They're not perfect, but they're his people, outcasts just like him. Here he isn't feared or despised. For his mother and for this new sense of having a pack, Connor is ready to go all the way. He sinks deeper into crime, and every new job is a step toward the money for the surgery, and a step away from the honest life he clung to for so long. Connor now lives a double life. By day, he's a loving son, sitting by his sick mother's bed, holding her hand, promising her everything will be okay. By night, he's a breaker and a robber, risking his life in dark deals. And the hardest part, He can't tell his mother where the money comes from. He tells her he finally found a real job. That white lie weighs on him heavier and heavier. But the crew is already being hunted. A stubborn, sharp detective named Park has taken the case. He's thorough and patient, slowly but surely tightening the ring around Marcus's team, gathering evidence piece by piece. Park and his partner are breathing down the crew's neck. They get to Connor, question him, lean on him. The partner even tries to plant evidence to lock him up. But Park, hunter though he is, plays fair. Without real proof, he lets Connor go. The ring keeps tightening, and every new job gets more dangerous. And here's what makes this cop human. Park is raising a daughter, and she's gifted too. Every single day he lives in fear that her power will be noticed, registered, and his child taken away. So Park, in his own way, understands the outcasts he hunts. He's not a villain. He's a hostage of this cruel world too, just on the other side. Meanwhile, Marcus, strangled by the syndicate, drives the crew to riskier and riskier jobs. The boss is ordered to rob a bank to finally pay his debt. The crew takes the risk, cracks the vault, but inside waits a cruel disappointment. There's only a tenth of what everyone counted on. There's catastrophically not enough money. Not for Marcus's debt, not for Connor's surgery, and time is running out. Then the worst news comes. Mary has taken a sharp turn for the worse. The doctors throw up their hands and say the surgery has to happen now, or it's too late. Connor doesn't have a single day left. And cornered, Connor goes all in. He himself proposes a bold, almost suicidal plan to hit a police transport carrying confiscated psych. If it works, there's $10 million in the haul, more than enough to cover everything. But Connor doesn't want his cut in money. He sets one condition for taking part: heal my mother. And here Nia's secret comes out. It turns out she's a healer. Her rare gift can close any wound and beat even a deadly disease. She's Mary's only chance. The team takes on the biggest job of their lives. To cut off the police from backup, they cleverly block the transport in the one zone where the Guardian drones legally can't fly. The plan works perfectly. They seize the psych shipment, and at first it all goes clean, without a single casualty. This is the most tense stretch of the whole story. The crew moves in sync. Connor jams the tech in the comms, cutting the convoy off from help. The others take the guards. The Guardian drones are useless. The police can't make it in time. For a few seconds, it really looks like Connor's desperate plan will work, and he'll finally save his mother. But that's exactly when it all falls apart. Marcus's men suddenly, coldly gun down the convoy's police officers for no reason, just because. And the next second, they turn their weapons on their own. It's a planned betrayal. In the slaughter, Fiery Maddie is killed. The gentle giant Freddy is fatally wounded. And Marcus's brute, nicknamed Rhino, the one whose thick-skinned bullets can't pierce, grabs the whole psych hall and vanishes. Connor and Garrett have been set up and left to die at the crime scene. It's a brutal blow. A minute ago, they were a team, a family, and now Connor holds a dying friend and watches the fire go out in Maddie's eyes. The very people he trusted, the ones he turned his back to, betrayed them in cold blood, and all of it for drugs and money. Bleeding rage and pain, Connor puts it all together and understands the terrible truth. Marcus planned to betray and erase them from the start. It was all a lie, and now he and Garrett have only one thing left: to settle the score. They throw themselves into a furious chase. In a brutal, desperate fight, Connor and Garrett take down both the unbreakable Rhino and Marcus himself. The traitors are dead. Justice seems to be served. But at what cost? Almost the entire crew is gone, and Connor is still without money and without a cure for his mother. And here it is, the most heart-wrenching moment of the whole story. Beside Connor stands Nia, the only one alive who can heal his dying mother. Out of his mind with desperation and the fear of being too late, Connor is ready to force the healer. He raises a gun at her and demands she go to his mother right now. But through her tears, Nia tells him the awful truth about her gift. When she heals others, she takes their wounds and illness into her own body. Saving Mary means almost certainly dying herself in her place. She's not a villain. She just wants to live. And she begs Connor to let her go. And here Connor makes a choice that changes everything in him. He looks at the trembling girl and understands. He can't buy his mother's life with someone else's. That would make him just as much a monster as the ones he fought. He slowly lowers the gun and lets Nia go free. That is Connor's real victory. Not over his enemies, but over himself. In a world that turned him into a criminal, at the last moment he refuses to become a monster. He chooses to stay human, even if it costs his mother's life. And that choice is exactly what sets him apart from everyone he fought. And a moment later comes the very news he so dreaded. Mary is dead. He didn't make it. All his sacrifices, all the crimes, all the blood spilled. All of it turned out to be for nothing. A guy who could light up an entire city couldn't save the one person he loved. It crushes Connor completely. He did everything he could and more. He crossed himself, the law, his own conscience, and still he was too late. The cruelest punishment in this story isn't prison. It's this feeling that the person you loved is gone for good, and it was all in vain. In the end, Connor gives Nia his truck so she can finally escape this cursed city and be free. Garrett, meanwhile, takes the psych for himself and becomes the new king of the drug trade, an outcast turned into the very thing he fought. And Connor quietly comes to his mother's fresh grave, says goodbye to her, and turns himself into the police. There's no weakness in that surrender. There's dignity. Connor has nothing left to lose and no one left to fight for. He doesn't run and doesn't hide like a hunted animal. He ends it himself, accepting everything he's done. And in that quiet, broken gesture, there's more humanity than in the whole city that hounded him. And somewhere up there, in warm offices, the officials calmly vote to finally ban the gifted. The city never understood the main thing, that it, with its own hands, year after year, shaped these abandoned people into the very criminals it feared. And Detective Park, in the finale, reluctantly accepts an award for the successful operation, though he understands the bitter injustice of it all. He looks at his own little gifted daughter and sees a future Connor in her, a child this same world might one day corner. And in his eyes is a question the story has no easy answer to. And here's the most bitter part of it all. Connor was never a villain. It wasn't greed or a thirst for power that drove him. Only love for his mother and the wall the whole world built in front of him. The system that feared the gifted and kept them caged before any crime. In the end, raised the very criminals it dreaded. If this story got to you, tell me in the comments. Would you cross the line to save your mother or not? And be sure to check out the next one. There's another powerful story you won't be able to look away from. Subscribe.